Hello, I'm Ollie, and this is Criminolly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, I'm going to talk about my reading plans for the rest of the year. I'm doing the end of the year book tag. So this tag was created by Ariel Bissett. I haven't been tagged by anybody in it so far this year. At least I don't think I have. But it's one of those tags that's a good one to do at this kind of time of the year. So I thought I would do it anyway. And when I checked back, it was I think the second tag I ever did after starting the channel. So I did the BookTube newbie tag as my first tag, and then I did this one in early December of 2021. And it was quite amusing looking back at my answers for the question. So I'm going to tell you, I'll put a link to my original video in the description for this, but I'm also going to tell you what I answered last year, because almost all of my answers, with the benefit of hindsight, were terrible. So anyway, let me get on with the questions. So the first question is, are there any books you started this year that you need to finish? And the answer to that is no, not really, other than things I'm reading at the moment, which is kind of what I said last year as well, because I'm someone who tends to read, I usually read one book at a time. I'm not someone who has books on the go for weeks on end or months on end. When I did this question last year, I was listening to the audiobook of Milkman by Anna Burns, which I've been listening to by over a year at that point. Because listening to audiobooks was something I used to do when I was walking to work, and I wasn't walking to work. So I have finished that. I did finish that. I can't remember if I finished it before the end of last year or if I finished it early this year. But I did finish that, and it was excellent. In terms of this year, then, I think I'd like to put a bigger dent in the Sherlock Holmes, the complete Sherlock Holmes stories. But I don't know if I'll finish those this year. I suspect not, because there's a lot to read there. Second question is, do you have an autumnal book to transition you into the end of the year? My answer last year was no, and my answer this year is no. I'm not a kind of seasonal reader at all. Next question then is there a new release you're still waiting for? So my answer last year was Mestiza Blood by V. Castro, which I had been sent an art for at that point, but it wasn't quite out. I've subsequently read that, and it was excellent. I did a review of it on the channel, so that was a good pick last year. And my answer this year is going to be a V. Castro book as well. So Aliens Vasquez, which is her Aliens tie-in novel about the character Vasquez and her kind of backstory. So that is actually out. I think it came out towards the end of October. I foolishly forgot to pre-order a copy or order a copy before I started my 100 book challenge. So I'm not going to be able to read it for a while. So I'm going to pretend it's a new release, and I think it will be one of the first books I get when I finish the challenge. Or I might ask for it for Christmas, actually. Next question then is what are three books you want to read before the end of the year? So this is where my answers from last year started going rapidly downhill. So my answers for this last year were Captain Blood by Michael Blodgett, which I did start but DNF'd. Fellowship of the Ring, so I did read that, but I then didn't finish the trilogy, so I was reading one a month, and I only got as far as the Two Towers. I never read Return of the King. And then the other one was Phoenix 2 Ground Zero by David Alexander, which I did read and which was a lot of fun. And my answer for this year is, there's a bunch of books that are on my TBR for both November and December, but there's nothing that I really feel compelled to read. There's nothing I feel like I have to read out of those. So there's definitely a few things, some newer things to me, which I'm looking forward to reading. So, for example, this which is next to me, The Spirit by Thomas Page, which I think I'm going to read in December. And I'm enjoying the Disturbing Books Challenge, so I think I'm probably going to read Exquisite Corpse by Poppy Z. Bright next month. So I think those are two that I will, I'm likely to read. But as I say, there's nothing I'm desperate to read. Okay, question 5. This is like the worst answer possible from last year. Is there a book you think could still shock you and become your favourite book of the year? So I gave 2 answers for this last year. I said Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel, which I thought was just a completely boring, and I DNF'd after about 50 or 60 pages. And the second one was All the Pretty Horses by Cormac McCarthy, which I really didn't like at all. I've subsequently read Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy, which I really like, but All the Pretty Horses I just couldn't get on with at all. I hated that book, and I even made a video about how much I hated it. I don't normally make videos, I don't normally make like overly negative videos about books, but I did make a very negative video about that book. So I do need to give that one another try and see if I like it a bit more now I've read some other Cormac McCarthy and enjoyed it. But yeah, 2 terrible answers from last year. So in terms of this year, 2 books I know I'm going to be reading by the end of the year are Baxter by Jessica Hamilton, which I'm really looking forward to. That's one I've wanted to read for ages. And also Hex by Thomas Old Hoyvelt. I may well be completely mispronouncing his surname, which again, I've had that on my Kindle for about 5 years and everyone says how great it is. So those 2, I think, both stand the chance of being my favourite book of the year. But we shall see. Clearly last year I answered that question very badly indeed. And the final question then is, have you already started making reading plans for 2023? So for last year, my answer to this was that I would finish the 100 book challenge, which I was on at that point, which I did. And that I will continue reading the pulp series that I was reading. So The Executioner, The Survivalist, Gore and Edge. And I have continued reading those. I haven't always read one of those every month, but I've read most of them. Most months I've read one, and continuing to really enjoy them. I also said I was going to continue with the Wheel of Time series. I saw sense on that. I did read the first book, but I won't be reading any more of those, I don't think. So yeah, that was what I said last year. This year, clearly I've got a couple of challenges on the go, which I will be continuing with. So the Read 12 Classic Books recommended by Michael K. Vaughan project, which I'll continue to do. And also the Disturbing Books project, so reading through books that were suggested in the comments on one of my videos. So going to be continuing with those. I will continue reading the Pulp series that I've just mentioned. I will finish my new 100 book challenge as well. And the other thing I've got planned for next year, which I'm going to be doing with Anne Novella, whose channel is great, and I will put a link to her channel in the description. We're going to be doing a read through of all of Patricia Highsmith's books. So I've read a few, I think I've read 3 or 4 Patricia Highsmith books in the past and really, really like them. And Anne suggested a while ago that it'd be fun to read all of her books. So that's another thing I'll be doing in 2023. So in terms of tagging people, there are a couple of people I thought I would tag who are new to BookTube or newish to BookTube and weren't around or didn't have channels this time last year anyway. So that's Michelle from Michelle's Melancholia and Roy from Roy Reads Everything. And I also thought I'd tag Kelly from Kelly Hooked on Books, because I'd be really interested to see what her plans are for the rest of the year. I imagine a lot of it's tied to the Christmas Evil readathon, which she's co-hosting, which is fantastic. Do check out the videos for that. It looks like a lot of fun if you like horror. So yeah, I'm going to tag those 3 people. So time for a random book from the shelves, one that I did mention in this video, Mestiza Blood by V. Castro, which I thoroughly recommend if you're into horror. So a really good horror short story collection, some wonderful variety in this one. There's a couple of really standout stories that have stuck with me since I read it. So hope you enjoyed that. Do let me know what your reading plans are for the rest of the year. Let me know if you've read any of the books I talked about, especially perhaps the ones I hated. Let me know what you thought of them. As always, you can connect with me on my Discord server or on places like Instagram and Twitter or Goodreads. There are links to all of those in the About section on my channel. But yeah, as always, thanks very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.